Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Dr. Sharon Saline, and we're here for a very lively conversation and hopefully informative too about how to help teens who are pushing back, refusing to do things, and really creating tension in the family and difficulties in their own lives as well. So if you can just introduce yourself and say hello, I'd love to meet you. Let me know where you're from. And I do have a gift for you, which I'm going to have to find. Oh, here it is. Sorry. I have a gift for everybody who's coming today. It's a downloadable on managing inappropriate behavior in teens. So I'll be sharing that with you very shortly. So Patty, you're from Maryland. Welcome. Thank you. You're the first one to say hi. Hi, Mia from Finland. Hi, Leanne from Utah. Hi, Nicola from the UK. Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited that you're here. This is going to be a great session where we have a chance to, talk more explicitly about some of the challenges that we face with tweens and teens with ADHD. Hi, Kimberly from Pennsylvania. Hi, Heather. You are most welcome for this topic. Hi, Natalie from Australia. Sonia from Ontario. Renee. Lisette. Christine. If I didn't get your name, I'm sorry. Sometimes Facebook things go very, very quickly. Hi, Jen. Hi, Shannon. And welcome, everybody. And thank you for taking the time to join us. I'm really excited that you're here. I see Michelle from Wales, Annette from Kansas, Kara from Canada, and Shannon also. So thank you, everybody. Gemma, Agnes, Elsa, Dana, welcome. Bella, we've got a whole bunch of people here, so this is great. So I'd like to start off today by asking you a question. What is the primary challenge that you face with your tween or teen? And here are some possible examples. Lack of cooperation, inappropriate language, refusal to do tasks such as homework or chores, instant anger or reactivity, threatening behavior, or the destruction of property. So take a few minutes, and I'm going to paste these options in the chat, and you might have something of your own to say, but put these, here are some options, so you can choose from those. What are the primary challenge? What is the primary challenge that you face with your child or tween? Hi, Kathy and Amit from Belfast. Hi, Marion from Lindenhurst. Hi, Ulrike. Let's see, Bella and Kat, Sarah, Julie, Claudia from Las Vegas, Susie from Australia. Hi, Lucy, and thank you for joining. Okay, and we have some answers. Fantastic. So Renee says number 3. Mia says number 2. Marion says all of the above except threatening behavior. Anger, homework, quick reactivity, refusal to do homework or tasks, refusal to attend therapy coaching, 1 and 3, at home always, cooperation, refusal to work, all the ones you stated, 3 and 4, physical violence toward you, I'm very sorry to hear that, and completing tasks. Okay, so you games, not wanting to leave the house to do other things, taking a long time to sleep, refusal. So let's start by defining what is defiance. So defiance is a refusal to, technically, to obey, and it's the demonstration of open resistance. And I believe that kids are defiant for a reason. Now, in terms of statistics and research, oppositional defiant disorder travels with ADHD about 40% of the time. Personally, I believe that oppositional defiant disorder is a relationship issue as well as a sort of a character trait. And it's a relationship issue because usually kids who are oppositional in one setting or with one person or two people have areas in which they are completely cooperative and able to get along much better. And so we want to look at some of the qualities of the relationships and what might be getting in the way. I want to look at a couple more of your answers because these are just flying in so quickly. Let's see, anger, hatred toward little sister. Hi, Tulsa. Thank you, Kat. With 1, 3, and 4, initiating a task, forgetfulness, substance use, not completing tasks, some anger, but only toward video games, impulsive, dramatic reactivity, lack of follow-through, all of the above except threatening, anger, cooperation, quick reactivity, oversensitive, refusal to help with it, get any help with anything. Okay, so why do we call it a disorder if it's situational? It is called a disorder. That's a good question. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual calls it a disorder because it is classified as one. And usually what we see, and as a family therapist, what I see is that it's a combination of what's happening inside a person and the people they're interacting with as well, which is what's so interesting because kids who have oppositional defiant disorder have areas where they are not oppositional. And so we want to understand those areas where they're not oppositional and figure out what's going on so we can apply them to the areas where we're seeing it. So Kate says, like a switch, angry 1 minute, fine the next, switching tasks to less enjoyable things, low self-esteem, argumentative, and right. And Marion says she agrees with Kate, right? So what we have is, part of what oppositional defiant disorder is related to is, really, weaker emotional regulation. And so we want to understand a little bit more about why kids say no. So of course we want to talk a little bit about what's called pathological demand avoidance. I know all of these terms are so negative, but this is why. I mean, these are what these are called, so I'm just sharing them. So with what was called PDA, it's characterized by an overwhelming need to avoid or resist a demand. And so this can be an autism characteristic that we might see in level 1 autism kids who also have ADHD. So we see these characteristics of autism plus high anxiety levels, and that kids feel like they're not in control. So they avoid or refuse requests that are made too assertively in their opinion. And this interpretation or misinterpretation can lead them to refuse activities that they actually enjoy. So we can see a sort of obsessive resistance to ordinary demands and requests, the use of perhaps manipulative or outrageous behavior to avoid having to do something, sudden changes in mood apparently associated with a need to control or reject something. So because kids with PDA want to have this control, we have to really watch ourselves as adults. Yes, it can carry on into adulthood, and avoid non-negotiable words that give the impression that we've made the decision for them and we've taken away their control. So demand words such as need, you must not, you will, you won't, you can't, trigger kids who are oppositional and those who also have PDA. So that means we want to make requests instead of demands, or frame things slightly differently. Is it okay with you if? How do you feel about? Do you mind? Blah, blah, blah. Would, could you, etc. If you'd be happy to, I'd really appreciate X. When you finished with Y, could you then do Z? Instead of go get your homework out now and do it, try something like, I'm really looking forward to working together during our family work time. So we want to use words like us, we, let's, and together. We want to notice when there's cooperation, and we want to validate it and, give it a high five and thank you. So I actually am a real fan of what I call directed free choice. So directed free choice is basically the process where you give kids some options, or you brainstorm with them a couple options to various situations. So for younger kids, you can often present the options. You can do this, You can do 1, 2, or 3. For older kids, for tweens and teens, they may need to be involved in what some of those options are. They may want to have a say. Well, I see 2 options, and I'm wondering what you think the third might be. Let's pick. Let's pick one of those because that's what's available. So part of what we're talking about is how do we look underneath what's happening in front of us. And I have created a downloadable for you today. Whoops, not this one. Hold on. That will give you some clues about how you can do this to sort of what you're seeing, what the behavior might be representing, and what some interventions could be. So I'll put this in the chat for you. I see a bunch of comments here. Let's see. Marion asks, but why is it only towards me, the mother, and not toward anyone else? That's an excellent question, Marion. So we don't know. You may know, you may not know, you may suspect, you may not really have a clue about why these behaviors are directed towards you. It could be your personalities are a little bit like kind of rubbing up against each other. It could be that, your child maybe sees themselves in you or sees you in themselves and doesn't like that, and as part of the process of adolescence, which is really moving away from that family crucible into the social world as the primary focus, they might decide that they want to push you away. And so this is what I mean about oppositionality, that usually for oppositional defiant disorder, we see it across different scenarios and with different people. That doesn't mean that your child isn't oppositional with you or difficult. Claudia says, my daughter refuses to help me at home with house chores, takes medication, goes to school. Now she has developed OCD. She doesn't seem to have social skills and self-esteem. It sounds like she's really struggling, and she is taking her medication and she is going to school. So she might be part of, and I see this often with kids with ADHD and who are on the spectrum, is they're trying to assert some kind of authority in the one area where they feel like it's possible, with the one person they feel like can take it, either a mother or a father or a caregiver. So they're pushing back at home because they can. They can't push back at school. Maybe their medication's worn off. We don't actually know. But she's struggling, and she is clearly, I would imagine, wanting friends and feeling bad about herself that she doesn't have them. Teresa says rejection sensitivity can be reactionary. Yes, it can. Kate says people who are close. Right. So when your child feels close to you, they're going to push away hardest at you because they feel the safety to do it. And that can be very, very frustrating because here you are, and you might be a single parent offering everything you can to this child who is really, giving you a run for your money. He's close to all the family members, but you have residential custody. Yeah. 2 choices instead of you must. Yes, Susan. So I was talking about that with that, directed free choice. We offer a couple choices of things, and that way they feel like they have autonomy and decision-making possibilities. Marion, his neurologist tells me because I'm his safe place, but I don't understand why he would act like this toward me. So this isn't actually logical, nor is it rational. And he's acting this way because at some level he feels like this is the arena where he can do that, but he can't do it in other areas because the repercussions will be too great. And really what we want to work on is how you can respond to these things without being triggered yourself. Lissa says, how is PDA different than ODD? So oppositional defiant disorder is different than PDA. It's not quite as intense, and really what we see with oppositional defiant disorder is more kind of open resistance and an unwillingness to cooperate. But it's not across the board. And what we see with PDA is it's much more across the board. I do get him involved in the decision making, but he tries to negotiate with me. Yep, of course. So what we want to figure out is where is the area where he can negotiate and what is the non-negotiable. Michelle, I'm recently diagnosed ASD and ADHD. I feel my reactions are similar to my son's, so lots of clashes. Yes, of course, and this can happen a lot. So what we want to be able to do is for you to be able to manage yourself first so that you can help them. Lissa, because he trusts you and masks around everyone else. Exactly. Feels like he has to comply, but it comes at a very high emotional and mental cost. So, Lissa, you're bringing up a really good point about masking and camouflaging. So what Lissa's talking about is that when he's around other people, he puts on a front. He puts on a persona of what he thinks he should be doing or how he should be responding, and he hides some of this other stuff. But with you, he doesn't feel like he has to hide, which is why you're getting the brunt of it. Oh, Claudia, she is not taking meds or going to school. Oh, I didn't understand that. Sorry. Okay, so so that sounds really difficult. And I'm wondering, Claudia, if you're in some counseling, some family counseling with her. Okay. What is PDA again? So I've gone over this. I encourage you to look it up, but PDA is characterized by an overwhelming need to avoid or resist demands versus oppositional defiant disorder, which is, kind of open resistance to something for a reason. Okay. Whereas PDA, there's just a need to avoid or resist the demands. This makes me try and figure out everything else. Okay, my son is ADHD. Is there a way to get a PDA diagnosis in the US because it's not in the DSM-5? Not really, and so what happens is that PDA falls under the umbrella of ODD, and so it's harder to get a PDA diagnosis. In Great Britain, people are given the diagnosis of PDA much more because it is a diagnosis there. Here it's not. So this is why, this is how PDA and ODD are related. PDA generally falls under, can fall under the oppositional defiant umbrella, and it's of course part of the autism diagnosis spectrum. Marcia says, in trying to give our daughter more control when possible, my husband believes I'm allowing her to control the family and puts his foot down because he's old school and he sees her control as manipulation. Isn't it in fact manipulation? Manipulation, we should do a whole session on manipulation, because what is exactly manipulation? Manipulation is trying to get something that you want. And if you feel like, if you're feeling out of control internally, or you feel like your situation externally is out of control, you are going to try to change or shift the things around you so that you feel more comfortable. And that's really what manipulation is about. Do you take things away or punish them? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I'm a single mom. She's 17. And so you've been a single mom for a long time. Kat, you're a single mom. It is common, yes. Elisa, I find it very difficult to punish or discipline my daughter due to the times I've tried to take away iPhone or iPad. She becomes violent toward me and even starts breaking things and kicking holes in the walls. So Elisa, one of the things that we want to do in situations where this happens is that we want to scale back, free screen time and have the rest be earned. So every day they get like an hour for free, and they earn the rest of their screen time through cooperative activities. including homework, basic chores, etc. And that it teaches kids that have to's become before want to's. And this is an essential part of living as a successful adult. We all know that even though we might want to watch our show, like a preferred show for 3 hours during the middle of the day, actually we're going to go to work because we need the money. So, or we love what we do, or we have commitments. So we do the have to, and then we come home and everybody's in bed or whatever, we can watch what we want to. The link doesn't open for you. Okay, I don't know how to help you with that. I will post the link again, and I encourage you to cut and paste it. Attitude, pathological demand avoidance. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's go on a little bit. So we want to look underneath inappropriate words and actions. So what you might see as fatigue or low energy, an inability to start or complete tasks, could be slow processing speed, sleep deprivation, nutrition imbalances, overwhelm, anxiety, or depression. And then, you know, there are some things that you can do differently. Increase exercise, seek consultation with a medical practitioner, work with energy highs and lows, and assign appropriate tasks for those times. What you might see as being obstinate, emotionally volatile, or even physically violent really is a manifestation of emotional dysregulation, poor impulse control, or a fear of failure. So set up a plan for those explosions in advance of them. We want to know what are the options for when those things are occurring and what are some logical consequences that are going to happen as a result of it. Use my STAR approach: stop, think, act, recover. So call, pause in the action. Figure out what some self-soothing activities are for you and for your kids. Come back together for think to discuss what occurred and how they might have liked to have seen it go differently. Decide what the next right action will be. Then act. Take that next right action. And then give time for recovery. It takes about, I don't know, up to a minute, 90 seconds for the amygdala hijack to occur in our brains and bodies. So for the amygdala to send the message that there's something to be afraid of, we need to fight or flee, or we're in freeze mode. And it takes up to 15 or 20 minutes for the body to actually settle after that. So we want to give plenty of time for recovery. And then if we want to give feedback or negotiate something or do teaching, that's going to come the next day when there's a whole fresh page that's starting. What you might see as trouble with friends or loneliness could be related to having ADHD or being on the spectrum or having a learning disability or twice exceptional. And so we want to help kids by rehearsing conversational skills, talking about different levels of friendship. Michelle Garcia Weiner has a great thing called the friendship pyramid and the hatred pyramid. Check those out. Practice reading and articulating emotions in the family. What we see as substance abuse or tech addiction might be actually just dopamine hunting, looking for stimulation, being unable to be with themselves in a quiet way, might be avoidance, might be feeling like they're not quite good enough, they don't like themselves, low self-esteem. So you want to discuss your family drug and alcohol policies. You want to set up some collaborative guidelines and consequences for substance abuse or tech overuse that are logical consequences, things that are related to the behavior that they've engaged in, and seek outside support. When kids are oppositional or resistant, it's very hard for you to manage this on your own. So it's important to find a therapist who understands ADHD or a coach who could help you. And if your kids don't want to go, I've worked with families like this and they've set up an agreement. Like one client I worked with literally basically said, if you go to therapy with Dr. Sharon, we'll give you $5 after to go to CVS, which is, you know what that is. If you live in the United States, it's a pharmacy chain, and you can buy yourself whatever you want. Is that bribery? No, that's an incentive, because bribery is, here's $5, now come to the session, and kids might not come. So it's an incentive. You will earn this gift, like we can go out for hot chocolate, or, you know, we can go check out you know, a gaming store or something that you're interested in, but after we complete this task. So there's lots of comments. Let me see. Thank you for that ODD explanation. It was my daughter's initial diagnosis, but I feel it's not relevant now since she's medicated, and I always make a conscious effort to complement the positive behavior. Far out, Nicola. That's the 5th C, celebration. We notice, we validate, we encourage the progress that we see our kids making. The efforting, you know, the efforts. The efforting is different than trying. Trying is sort of make an effort, you know, you sort of make an attempt and you toss it away. Efforting is a full body experience for these outside the box thinkers. It's emotional, it's social, it's cognitive, it's physical. So we want to really acknowledge their efforting. Thank you, Tulsa, for sharing that. You're welcome, Renee. Angela, does this work for a 19-year-old? Sometimes it seems too much for me to ask. How do you feel about getting up today? Right, it does work for a 19-year-old. And a 19-year-old who's struggling to get up each day, a 16-year-old, a 10-year-old, that is a sign that something is going on. And it could be depression, it could be struggling at school or socially, it could be pushing back against one parent. I'm working with a family now where their 14-year-old gets out of bed just fine for one parent and goes through the things of the day and fights tooth and nail with the other parent. So what are the options that we want to do? What is the first parent doing that the second parent may not be doing? And how can we improve the morning routine? Lissa, boundaries are needed, non-negotiable ground rules, but low demands are needed for PDA kiddos. Burnout is a thing. Absolutely, Lissa. I'm so glad you're here. You're sharing so much great information with everybody. So we want to have non-negotiable ground rules for kids who have ODD and kids who might also manifest PDA and kids who are resistant and angry. Ground rules that are non-negotiable. Perhaps there's a few ground rules that might be negotiable under certain circumstances, and to keep your demands on the low side, meaning on something that's easy that they can actually accomplish. So you want to have a lot of demands that kids can do, and then a few that are a reach for them. Because if all of the demands are things that are hard for them, they're not going to try because they don't think they can succeed. Elisa, I've tried that, but it doesn't work. She has tracked her phone and pad. When I hide them, she is completely defiant. Well, you know, sometimes, Elisa, parents have to get a safe that locks, and they put the things live there during the times when they're off limits. And there are people who specialize in tech addiction, and I would encourage you to, you know, maybe consult with them. I actually am going to talk about lying next. Thank you so much for asking. So Tulsa says, a lot of different medications, some have side effects that will make a person react in ways like depression, impulse disorders, or anger. What do you think? I think that's true. Medications act differently on everybody. So let's talk a little bit about lying. So lying is saying something false with a desire to deceive someone. Okay, that is the purpose of lying. You are saying something false because you want to deceive someone. What we see a lot in tweens and teens, particularly those with ADHD, are what are called lies of omission. Like, I'm just not going to tell you the full story because I don't really think you need to know. And then what happens is, by not telling you the full story, they end up creating a falsehood or an alternative reality story that kind of collapses under inspection. So lies are about creating comfort in the present, reducing stress or minimizing conflict based on something that's happened in the past. So I did this in the past, and I believe that if I do it again now, something, you know, quote unquote, bad is going to happen to me. So I'm going to lie to make sure that doesn't happen. However, for kids with ADHD, saying something that's incorrect, misperceiving a conversation or a set of events may not be a lie, particularly if they believe what they're saying. No, I saw it this way. I'm right and you're wrong. You know, and in those situations, what you want to be able to say is, you know, there can be three sides to every story. Yours, mine, and the objective truth. And we're never going to find out what that objective truth is because we can't. It's not possible. So, and we don't have cameras in our house or watching us or, you know, observers who are around. So we're going to agree to disagree. Where can we find the common kernel of truth here? Teens with ADHD lack impulse and emotional control, which makes lying more common. As I said, they may get their facts mixed up, they may misremember, they may elaborate on stories because they think it makes them look good. So we want to realize that lying is actually a social behavior that occurs between two people, often due to avoidance, denial, or a desire to avoid punishment. So the problem for kids is that lying doubles a problem. You have the lie, and then you have the actual behavior or action themselves. So for example, if you have a teenager and your agreement with your teenager is, wherever you are, if you're at a party or you want to come home, text me that you want to come home and I'll come get you. And then if you go to the party and you pick them up and they've been drinking, and the next day you take things away from them because they've been drinking, what are the chances are that they're going to be honest with you in the future? So this, instead of saying, Sharon, you see, I can't really rely on my kids and I don't fully trust them and they're taking advantage or being manipulative, what I want you to think about is actually planning for that eventuality, having a conversation with your kids in advance. Say, okay, you know, I'm going to pick you up whenever. And, you know, if you've been drinking or if you've been smoking marijuana or cigarettes and one of the ground rules in the house is no drinking or smoking, then we're gonna come back to visit the consequences of the choice that you made that you yourself agreed to. But you don't want to do it at that time. Because they're not in their right minds. You want to wait till the next day and then have a conversation, say, hey, you know, at breakfast or at lunch, because they may not wake up until 10 or 11, you know, I think it would be good for us to have a conversation sometime about what happened last night. And you ask them, you know, what can you tell me about what was going on last night? You know, are you aware that you know, broke one of our ground rules? What do you think the consequence of that should be? And this way we allow them the opportunity to be accountable, but also to sort of set up their own consequence, which sometimes might be, you know, more severe than you might actually choose for yourself. If I ask my kids to do a chore, they will say, are you asking or telling? They look for technicalities. So Heather, I think in your family, what's the family agreement about chores? Do I ask you and you get to say no? Or do I say, it's time for your chore, let's do chores, where it's family chore time? You're welcome, Lissa. Thank you for saying that. Jackie from Kansas taught for 54 years. Thanks for joining, Jackie. Maria, my boy doesn't sleep well. He takes melatonin, but he doesn't really sleep. It doesn't help. He's got ADHD and SPD and uses a sensory diet to regulate himself, but he gets so angry if I ask him to do a simple task. So Maria, excuse me, what I want to say is that in situations like this, we have to link the have to tasks to the incentives that they want, the rewards that they want to earn. And getting angry reduces the amount of that reward. So if I basically say, hey, it's time to walk the dog, and you start screaming at me on the top and at the top of your lungs, we have an agreement in place that instead of earning an extra, 30 minutes on screens for walking the dog, you're only going to get 10 minutes because you yelled at me. So we have to really think about, what is happening, when it's happening, and plan in advance for these rather than be surprised. We're looking at patterns here, not at particular instances and behaviors, but when is something occurring? So, and then what are the responses to the things that are occurring? Okay. Anne Marie says, can you shed some light on why bullying by teachers, classmates is so much more prevalent for kids with ADHD, and how we can help provide tools? Yes. So bullying is prevalent for kids, and this actually, I'm happy to do a whole session on this, so I'll talk with Attitude about that and we'll see. But bullying is prevalent because kids who are neurodivergent are outside the box thinkers. They may dress differently, they may use non-binary pronouns, they may interrupt and raise their hand and say things that are inappropriate at times, they may be provocative even though they're not trying, and so they are the target of bullying because people get very frustrated with them very quickly, and they don't understand that if these kids could make different choices, they would. And how do you respond to parents, to adults of a classmate bullying? So, I think that, again, this is a bigger conversation. I think there also are kids with ADHD and kids who are neurodivergent who are bullies themselves, which is a separate issue. How you want to respond to parents actually has to do first with how do you want to deal with the school. Like, what is the school doing to manage this bullying? Is this bullying online? Is it occurring in person? Is it both? Bullying has to be unpacked very carefully, and has to include your child in some of the solutions, because many kids are afraid of retribution. And that's something that, has to be considered. Maria, I've taken things away or tried negotiating, but nothing. So Maria, in your situation, taking things away, what I find for these kids often who are oppositional is that taking things away doesn't really make a difference. It might make a little bit of a difference, but what we need is to motivate them by what matters to them. That's what makes a difference, because a lot of these kids who are oppositional have a very big part of themselves, a very loud internal negative voice that tells them they're a failure, they can't do things right, no one likes them, they're not interesting, they're not attractive, they're stupid, you name it. That's what this voice is telling them. So you're seeing these pushback behaviors, which are basically are an attempt, a very unskilled and ineffective attempt to manage some of these feelings that kids are having inside. They feel out of control inside, and so they're attempting to control things outside. And again, I want to remind you that kids will do this at home first, because they feel like there's more safety. In fact, one of my clients said to me, I can do this at home because I'm not going to get kicked out of my family. I can't do this at school because I'll get kicked out of school. That's a really interesting insight. Pam, what do you do when the 19-year-old understands why they are avoiding things but can't take steps to address their own, e.g. bad eating habits, doing homework, etc.? I would encourage you to get to work with your 19-year-old, to get a coach or a therapist who understands cognitive behavioral interventions to help them deal with their avoidance and to make small steps. The thing that really flies in the face of avoidance are small tasks, small steps, so that they can make and feel a sense of progress. Excuse me. Yes, this will be available later. Kimberly, I have a safe to keep things locked for my kids. Yes, and sometimes that's necessary. Angela, why do we see so many young people struggle with these types of disorders, so many different diagnoses that seem so much more pervasive? It's a great question, Angela. You know, I think that in the last 20 or 30 years, and certainly as long as I've been practicing, the field of psychology has changed dramatically, and people understand more about how the brain works. People see more syndromes and patterns and have identified disorders. I think our culture has changed also. We're a culture that relies heavily on social media for interpersonal interactions and on screens for entertainment. We often don't let ourselves be quote unquote bored. How many of you as adults, will go somewhere and you'll be waiting for something and you'll pull out your phone to look at while you're waiting? 20 years ago, there were many fewer phones, and people actually stood around when they were bored. They might have talked to each other. They might have just enjoyed the benefit of wandering attention and thinking about things. There's a higher prevalence of conflict in families, of substance use in our culture. Of course, we're seeing much more racism and homophobia misogyny. So all of these things, I think, are contributing. Michelle, my son can make up the way that things happen, sometimes, though, through a lack of attention to whatever it was, and other times out lies in a reactionary way. Right, and so, we want to give our kids an option to take back something that they said that might not be an exact truth. And I call this the take back of the day. And I did it with my kids when they were growing up. I think it's helpful in families that we all get a chance to take back something after we've said it, because it's kind of like it goes out, and then you as a person may realize, whoa, I should not have said that. And particularly for kids with ADHD who struggle with impulse control, it goes out and they've said it, and they may realize afterwards, like, that was not the right thing to say, but too late for them, it's already out in the world. And so if at home they have the option of saying something, realizing that it wasn't okay to say, and having it be their take back of the day, this will assist them as they go through their lives in other areas to be a little bit more conscious over time about what they're saying and who they're saying it to. Lissa, to the one that has a child that tracks devices, parental controls on the device and the router. This makes technology the bad guy and allows you to grant permission for more time, making you the good guy. Then even if she takes the device, it's unusable. Locking it up is still a good idea, but so she doesn't destroy it. So yes, a lot of parents I work with, thank you, Lissa, will turn off the access to the internet at a certain time. Parental controls can do that. I just learned about something called Bark, which seems kind of interesting as an app to assist you. If I punish my son, other people don't enforce the punishment over their house. Right, that's a whole separate issue, Marion. 1 out of 2 marriages or couples end up in divorce. And so what happens is we have a lot of kids who have difficulty with consistency and persistence and working memory, moving from one house to another, from one set of guidelines to another, and they may not be the same. The best measure of a child's well-being after divorce is how well the parents can actually get along and work together for the sake of the child. So is there a way at the opposite house that you can come up with 3 issues, 3 to-dos that would translate from one house to another? This would assist your child, and it would bring down the conflict in your house. Of course, it makes you the bad parent. Val, my 15-year-old has been lying about his hygiene for the longest time. I'm laughing because he is not alone. I know once he's not happy about his odor, but he'd rather cover it up with deodorant and say he took a shower when in fact he kills time from distractions, aka gaming or YouTube, and seems okay with the repercussions that follow from that. Right, so one of the things that we want to talk about with our kids, particularly as they go through the hormonal changes, is that actually you can't really lie about your hygiene anymore when your body is going through puberty. We can smell it, we can see it, and so can you and people at school. People notice when hair is greasy. They notice when people have broken out on their face. They notice when other people smell. And so I think it would be very important, even if he's okay with the repercussions, then perhaps to have repercussions that he's not okay with, or to make a basic agreement that you need to shower, 3 days a week, and pick the days, and then have a special reward that he can earn for doing that, until the natural reward of feeling like, oh, I'm attractive, and I don't smell, kick in. So he's 15, but he's in many ways more like a 12-year-old. So when he starts to be interested in intimate relationships, we may see a shift in that. Okay, so you want a seminar on bullying in schools, but for school personnel. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lissa. Yeah, not a bad parent. Yeah, Elisa says she misses having conversations like that. Pam, I still do talk to people even if they think I'm strange. Oh, me too. High five on that one. Punishments don't work, and they're less successful with ODD because it makes them more defiant. So instead of fine, no more screen time today, try, if you take out the garbage, you can have 15 minutes of more screen time, or whatever their currency is. Exactly, that's what I was saying before. We want to work with their currency, with what matters to them. So, instead of taking it away, say, well, if you want a little bit more of this, you can do that. And you can have a couple chores up on your whiteboard in your kitchen, or a blackboard, and say, if you do this, you can earn that. If you do this, you can earn this. Michelle says there are less societal rules that people follow today, as in everything, it's a lot more confusing. Yep. We know a lot more than we did 20 or 30 years ago. That's right, science has advanced. How do you deal with the new ADHD diagnosis in a teen who's had substance abuse disorder for years? That's a great question. It's not the focus of this particular Facebook Live, but I'm happy to come back to it. I believe that there was an excellent talk on attitude recently by Dr. Timothy Wylans about substance abuse disorder. I encourage you to check that out. No, a seminar for parents on bullying in schools. Oh, okay, got it. Thank you. Lots of smart parents here today. Yes, Susan, that's true. Okay, great. So we are at the end of time, which is really incredible because there's so much more to say. I guess the thing that I want to say to you is, let's try to consider what no might mean. So don't be tempted to take no at its face value. It could be your child's way of expressing a wide range of emotions which they aren't able to articulate. A no might be a response to what your child or your teen, in this case, may grasp as a demand rather than a request. Before you investigate what no really means, reflect on how you communicate with your child to do something or engage them in a task. Invitations, doing things alongside our kids, being a body double, and noticing their efforts all contribute to better cooperation. So find a calm moment and ask them about no. Keep an open mind and an open heart. Be curious and gather information. Is saying no about setting limits, being contrary, slowing things down, feeling overwhelmed? Maybe it's a combination of these things. So brainstorm some alternatives with your kids to know that include coming up with some words or phrases to use when they need more time to think about something, or that actually describe their experience more clearly. Thank you so much for joining me. Once again, I'm going to put into the chat your free downloadable, which I think you'll find very helpful in terms of our conversation today. I encourage you to follow me on Facebook and check out my website. My blogs are often on topics that we discuss, as well as a whole range of other things related to living fully with ADHD. Have a great weekend. Thank you, and I'll see you next week. Will I see you next week? No, I won't see you next week, actually, because it's a holiday weekend. So I'll probably see you in a few weeks. Take care and be well.